But, Mark, let's move into, I'm just going to say it, our final topic. I know it's not our final topic, but we're recording these out of order. And this is the last one.
It's our third of our fourth topic.
It's our third of our fourth if you're listening all the way through. But before I get into what we're going to talk about, make sure if you're on YouTube, this is a YouTube-only thing. I am sorry for audio listeners, but if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that bell. Usually we don't have 4 topics, so I don't have 4 things to promote. So here's your 4th thing. Go ahead and hit that bell. You'll get the last one.
Actually, about half of our year we have 4 topics.
Do we? Well, yeah, you're right. You're right because of the picks. And now the AAF, as I keep wanting to call it, the AFL. But go ahead and hit that bell to keep up to date on everything for MVP, especially because I found something out about YouTube. Apparently, if you post more than 3 things in a 24-hour span, it will only notify your viewers about the first 3.
Makes sense.
So if there's something like the Rick and Johnny today was the 4th one, you probably didn't get an update about that one. But you will if you hit that bell on our YouTube channel. But Mark, we're talking about a topic that we haven't talked about on this podcast before, right?
Never.
Like a team that we've never talked about with the draft in the Arizona Cardinals, and a guy that we've never talked about going to this team in Kyler Murray. Am I right?
Yeah.
Nudge, nudge, wink,
and
wink.
My point still stands. Still stands.
So what we're getting into is, I know that we talked about that. We mentioned this during our 4.0 mock draft. Sean, Dave, and I talked about the Cardinals trading for Antonio Brown last week. And about a month ago, February 1st, we talked about who this team could take at number 1. But an NFL Combine happened. So Kyler Murray, his measurables come out. He's over 5'10". He's 5'10", and what, an eighth would that be?
Yeah, he was standing on his tippy toes, you know.
His hands were a good size. His measurables were good. Everything kind of laid out. So now there's rumors that the Cardinals are saying, hey, screw it. We're going to probably take you with the number 1 overall pick. I am going to ask you, Mark, for the millionth time on this podcast, and definitely not the last, should the Cardinals draft Kyler Murray with the 1st overall pick?
No. You got a quarterback. You drafted a quarterback 12th overall last year.
I love the emphatic no.
It's just you drafted a quarterback 12th overall. I get that you've got I think the only coach that can probably get success out of Kyler Murray in the NFL. Yet I don't even think that the coach is going to have success in the NFL.
Yet again, we had a topic of did they mess up by hiring Cliff Kingsbury?
Right? Man, if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, you hate us because we keep having negative things to say, but you love the coverage. Yeah, you guys get talked about a lot.
I feel bad for Brian Lutes.
Yeah, really.
Throwing it back, Brian Lutes. I haven't seen him in the comment section recently.
Yeah, where you been at? But you know, it's just to me, you already drafted a quarterback. Your team has so many needs. To get a Bosa is a huge deal for that defense. That would be such a good improvement. And Kyler Murray, yes, his hand bigger than I thought it was. All right, cool. He's going to do all right.
I said the over-under was 5'9.5", and I said under. Boy, was I wrong.
You were wrong. You know, he was a little bit taller than we expected.
Was he, though? I think he was right on with most people. Most people had him at 5'10".
Yeah.
That's pretty much where he landed.
He has an eighth. And, you know, his hand is bigger than Baker Mayfield's. The one thing that I do wonder about, though, is his weight. He came in heavier than I expected, which I was like, cool. I'm pleasantly surprised by that. That kind of took something away. But his frame is built differently to where I'm like, he weighed, I think, like 207 pounds or something like that. Is he actually going to be 207 pounds when it comes to game day? Or is that some water weight and he ate a lot of pasta and that's why he didn't want to run and throw? Because if he ran and throw, people would realize, ooh, he's a little bit slower now than he used to because of all that water and pasta. You know, but I'm just kind of going off on something. But to me, it's just purely, I get it. Kyler Murray is such a kind of controversial topic for what he can do in the NFL. I just don't see it working. I really don't. His team was built to be a team where he could just sling it all day. and those defenses can't keep up with what the defenses in the NFL has. When he gets pressure, he performs very badly.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. He was a guy that very rarely was under pressure because he played behind one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in all of college football.
If he goes to Arizona, he is not going to have that same luxury. No, not at all.
Remember when I talked about playing them in a franchise and was like, holy crap, that O-line sucks.
Exactly. There's a reason. Well, there's multiple reasons, but there's a reason why Josh Rosen did not do very well last year. Part of it's that offensive line is terrible. I mean, remember, the Chicago Bears kind of ended Sam Bradford. Because remember, Sam Bradford was the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals at one point this year.
And then the ginger giraffe.
I don't know. He never actually got to play.
But he's on the roster.
He is. He never got to play though. I don't think he did, at least. But yeah, Chicago Bears ended him. Ended Sam Bradford. But anyways, I fear for Kyler Murray's long-term success. And people are saying, yeah, but people have criticized, because we're talking about, and I'm sure you're going to get to the quotes at some point, we're talking about certain quotes of what GM said. People are like, yeah, but people complained about Cam Newton. People complained about Lamar Jackson and Josh Rosen. And it's like, yes, but Cam Newton is built way differently than Kyler Murray is. Lamar Jackson, I'm still afraid he's going to get hurt. And he kind of got shown a little bit by the Chiefs, or not Chiefs, the Chargers. And then Rosen, that's the guy that you're saying you should replace with Kyler Murray. So why is he a good comparison?
Well, and I'll throw those quotes out right now. And I'm looking at this is from the New York Post, and they have quotes from, the first one is from Charlie Casserly, who was a former longtime NFL executive. He said a few things. The first thing he said was he better hope Kingsbury takes him number one, because this was not good. These were the worst comments, talking about the comments about Kyler Murray. These were the worst comments I ever got on a high-rated quarterback, and I've been doing this a long time. And Cassidy was formerly the GM of the Redskins and the Texans and is now an NFL network analyst. He went on to say leadership, not good. Study habits, not good. The board work, below not good. Not good at all in any of those areas, raising major concerns about what this guy is going to do. And he went on to say, now people will say, we're going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. We're going to run an offense like Mahomes. We're going to run an offense like Baker Mayfield. But these guys are much different. These guys, you never question them about their ability on the board. You never question their leadership ability, their work habit. They were outstanding in those areas. This guy is not outstanding in those areas, and it showed up in the interview. And the thing I'm going to say about that last part first, Patrick Mahomes was a guy that I know you and I know me for sure, I was surprised when the Chiefs traded up, because I was like, oh, okay, didn't expect Patrick Mahomes to go this high.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing like he deserved to be drafted that high. Even Baker Mayfield was like, his football ability, never really questioned it, besides maybe like the same thing we're saying about Kyler,
size.
Of like the height. But like for me, it was
and the small hand.
And the small hand. But for me, it was more off the field stuff, where it was like when he got into the run-in with the cop, with the flipping off the Kansas Jayhawk team, all of that antics. That's what I kind of was raising a hoopla about with Baker Mayfield. I don't think it's a good sign, though, when you've got a former GM saying that this guy's not a good leader, is not a good study. Like, he's not going to study your playbook, basically, is what I'm seeing. And then number two, his board work is not good. Where I will go back to this. There was a documentary that I saw where Jacoby Brissett was talking about the first day he stepped in with Tom Brady in that Patriot locker room. And he goes, yeah, McDaniels asked me a question. Before I could open my mouth, Tom answered it. And he goes, the first thought I had was, what the hell are you doing? He asked me the question. And McDaniels looked right at Brissett and said, you got to be that quick. If you ain't that quick, you're never going to make it. So, I mean, I'm not expecting him to be Tom Brady, but it's like, if you're not even good with the board work in the room, are you even going to pan out as a quarterback in the NFL? And like you've always said, how quickly is he going to go to baseball once it gets hard?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a very real potential still. He was so non-committal about which sport he was going to play for the longest time. And he finally, after having an agent, decided to say, I'm going to play football, which wasn't really that surprising. To test it out and get some money, because he can get a nice fat paycheck early. But as soon as things get tough, he might just kind of flip-flop his way back to playing baseball. I look at Kyler Murray and especially some of the interviews we've seen with him, like the Dan Patrick interview. I mean, you got to bring it up, and I know people got mad at us for it, but you have to bring it up.
It was bad.
It was terrible. It was worse than bad. He was just so incredibly awkward on there. He did not know how to respond. He didn't know how to answer. And I sit there and I'm like, yeah, his job is not answering questions. And I'm not even really that concerned about the conferences after the press conferences. But I just look at it and I say, if that's how he was on this radio show, how is he going to impress any GMs and scouts when they talk to him?
Well, and Dan Patrick as an interviewer, he's not a guy that you can walk into and go, oh, this is going to be an easy interview. No, he's a guy that is going to ask the tough questions.
Like, did your friends come to your birthday party?
Basically.
Yeah.
But he is going to ask those questions where, hey, it's like he's not going to be a douche, but he's not going to it's not like a, hey, this is a cupcake kind of an interviewer. Like, he is one of the best interviewers in our business, and that is why his whole entire show, except for the part where he is talking to the Danettes about something, most of his show is, hey, I've got Reggie on talking about basketball. I'm interviewing Reggie. Hey, I've got Mel Kiper on.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing Mel about the draft. It's like most of his show is interviews because that's his best skill. So it's like you couldn't, you come up to that show with that weak stuff. Like, get that weak shit out of here.
It's also, if
and
that's
I know
what
people are going to get mad that I just said
if that's what Dan Patrick was saying, what do you think the GMs are going to ask you when you're in the room? Yeah,
harder stuff.
And are you going to impress them?
Those are
you have
behind
to
closed
impress
doors.
them. And the idea here is that if you kind of fall under pressure, mental pressure, when the questions are tough, what do you do when when you get actual pressure in an NFL game from opposing teams, which we've already seen hasn't done very well against that. But then the fact, too, of how about when the game gets tough? How are you going to handle under the pressure then? Are you going to freeze up? Because he froze up in an interview for that. But the other thing, too, and I know people might think we're making a little bit of a jump on that. I'll admit that. But the other thing, too, is how about when it just gets tough? Like I said, the guy froze up when the team is not doing well, when people are sitting there going, really? We got rid of Josh Rosen for this guy? Because, I don't know, maybe Josh Rosen goes to another team and maybe he's successful. Or maybe he's not and he's just sitting on your bench and you're wondering, well, we drafted him 12th overall. Why don't we give him a shot? Does that pressure make Kyler Murray go, I don't know, baseball's looking kind of good. Maybe I go play over there because I was going to be a pretty good player over there. I just think that it is too risky still. And I sit there, and to answer our original question with the Cardinals, with the number 1 overall pick, I know I've said before that sometimes when you need a quarterback, you go for that quarterback because you never have a chance to get any guy you want. You already had a chance to get the guy you want last year, and you grabbed him. You're really going to jump on and say, no, that was a mistake, and take a risky pick that easily could fizzle out of the NFL in like 2-3 years. And he's going to be very attached to Kingsbury. If Kingsbury fails in the NFL, then Kyler Murray's gone. Because I don't think very many other coaches are going to want to come in here and say, yeah, I'll work with Kyler Murray. They're going to want more of a prototypical type of quarterback instead of the undersized guy. I just think it's way too risky to do with a first overall pick when you can do something like, I don't know, take a Bosa.
Well, and that I'm going to get into that in a second, but like you bring up Kingsbury, like if you take Kyler Murray and he doesn't pan out, not only does Kingsbury lose his job, but, and I'm going to screw up his name, does Steve Keim also lose his job as the GM? And the reason why I'm unsure about that GM part is because, so Keim has been the GM with the Cardinals since, so January of 2013, he gets hired as the GM. About, 8 days later, on my birthday that year, January 17th, hires Bruce Arians to be the head coach of the Cardinals.
Things are going well for a while.
Things are going really well for a while. Like, he comes in as GM. They're 10-6, 11-5, 13-3 under Bruce Arians. Then 7-8-1, then 8-8. Then they get rid of Bruce Arians. He's gone.
Yep.
The second guy you hire as your GM is Steve Wilkes to be that head coach.
Yeah.
And you're 3-13. So to me, if Kingsbury if you guys draft Kyler Murray and that doesn't work out.
But you have to remember that you're also the GM that picked Josh Rosen. Well, so if you go out there and say Josh Rosen was a mistake, you're making a lot of mistakes now.
And I was going to bring that up as well.
Yeah.
It's like, what I would think as an owner then is, did you just get lucky? Did we just get lucky that Bruce Arians chose us over the Bears? And then number two, how's your decision-making been since that you draft Josh Rosen, then you second-guess and draft Kyler Murray, and both of those didn't pan out, plus the coaches you picked, depending on how Kingsbury does. Wilkes, you fired after a year. That ain't good. And Kingsbury, even if he gets 2 years, it's like you're on a hot
if he's
stove
not successful,
already
he's not successful. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, what are you going to do if that happens? Would Keim also be a guy that leaves or gets fired with Kingsbury? If Kingsbury,
because he's the one that makes the pick. And it's this, to me, it's the situation of Cliff Kingsbury. You can like Kyler Murray all you want, but you can like him when he's on another team.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be on our team for you to like the guy. We will go with whichever player makes us the best. And that's why I still sit here and think, especially at this time of the year where there's so many smoke screens going around and so many misdirection, I still stand there and say the Arizona Cardinals are trying desperately to get somebody to trade to the number 1 overall.
You think so?
They really, really, really want someone to trade. Because if they're trying to trade Josh Rosen, what team wants to trade for a guy who in 1 year you've said he sucks so badly that we're taking the guy everybody has questions about? We want that guy. We're taking a risky pick because our other guy we took was so bad. That's concerning, and to where they're saying that teams are saying, well, the price for Josh Rosen would be a 3rd overall pick. A 3rd overall pick for the guy who was drafted 12th overall last year. Trent Richardson got better than that. And where's Trent Richardson in the NFL? I just had to think that they are doing a terrible job of handling this situation because they are dropping down Josh Rosen's trade value tremendously. They're doing a great job at it.
To me, there's 2 teams that I see them getting because right now they said the value is a 3rd round pick.
Yep.
There's only 2 teams that would trade now for Josh Rosen with that. Either a team like the Patriots, who have 3 third-round picks and can give one
and
up
can just sit him on a bench.
Yeah, to sit him behind Tom Brady. Or a team like the Redskins could go, we'll give you our 3rd and just have Josh Rosen be our quarterback. Then we don't have to take a quarterback in the 1st round.
Yeah.
Those are, to me, the only 2 teams now that you're making a deal with, because the topic that we basically talked about last week when you weren't here of them trading Josh Rosen and a 3rd for Antonio Brown, I feel like that's out the window.
But here's the killer to me with the Arizona Cardinals is, let's say that they are just trying desperately to get someone to trade up to number 1 overall. They have zero intention of ever drafting Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I hope they had the conversation with Josh Rosen before all this happened to say, hey, don't worry, we're going to say a lot of things, but you're a guy. But to not go out there.
They won't even commit in public that he's the guy.
But that's my point. Well, they can't, because otherwise then who's going to trade up to number 1 overall?
Yeah.
But that's my point. To not pull a Rex Grossman is my quarterback from Lovie Smith. There's a reason why coaches go out there and they say, this guy's my quarterback. This guy's my quarterback. There's no question. This guy's my quarterback. They do that all the time. It's because the confidence level for the quarterback is so important. They need confidence.
Especially a guy entering his 2nd year in the NFL.
Right. So you have a quarterback in Josh Rosen, if you're going to go with him next year, who's sitting there thinking, my team doesn't like me. They don't want me. They are trying to replace me. maybe the only reason they don't replace me is because the GM overrules the coach. He is going to feel so bad about his confidence level. And now you're poisoning the well for your fans, too, because all your fans are going to get excited about this Kyler Murray thing. And if you don't draft him, it's like, oh, now we're stuck with Josh Rosen. It's just a terrible job they've kind of done to really hurt the young quarterback that they have right now in Josh Rosen. I just think they're very much are mishandling this situation.
See, and I think it's easy for the Cardinals. Like, if I was me, and the last thing I'll say about Steve Keim, because I also was like, oh, I wonder, like, who was their quarterback in 2013, because I couldn't remember. Before I say it, do you know who their quarterback was?
All I remember is Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
You want to know how they got him?
Through trade.
That April, they traded for him. So that, to me, is I wonder if they take Murray and it doesn't pan out. That's why I wonder if how long will the owner let Keim cling on to that early success of, hey, I got Bruce Arians and I traded for Carson Palmer. We had some good
and
games
kind of
once.
lucked into Carson Palmer because he had a very bad year in Oakland.
Exactly. And that's the one thing, like, I feel like this is easy. The easiest thing. If I'm the Cardinals, don't trade the pick. Don't draft Kyler Murray. Take Nick Bosa. Especially after the combine.
Nice and easy.
That just happened. You take Nick Bosa, you pair him next to Chandler Jones, and you say, screw it. We've got now a defensive line of Chandler Jones is on that offensive line. Nick Bosa's now on that offensive line. No, defensive line. Robert Nkemdiche is on that defensive line. That's what you do. You let someone else worry about Kyler Murray. That's what I'm saying. Because the whole thing is, it's like you said, you haven't said it this year because I feel like because it's more defensive, you haven't said so. But like you said about the Browns last year when everyone's like, oh, they're going to take a quarterback. Teams that keep drafting quarterbacks early in the draft, one, usually stay early in the draft. Two, they keep drafting quarterbacks early in the draft. Because they don't, if you miss on them, they don't pan out. You're back in the early draft.
There's a reason why you're
early
drafting
in the draft. A new quarterback because you're not hitting on them. Obviously, if you take like an Andrew Luck, boom, you're not early in the draft unless he's injured, and you hit on a quarterback. I just feel like you've got Josh Rosen. You're getting David Johnson back off of injury this year. Why not take the best defensive player in this draft at number 1?
Exactly.
And then in your second round pick, take a wide receiver.
Make the rest of the team better.
Let's say and I know you said you're going to have him in the first round. Let's say a Miles Boykin is there at 33 for some reason. You can take a Miles Boykin at 33 and there. Now we didn't have to trade Josh Rosen for Antonio Brown. And I know a lot of people want the Cardinals to trade for Antonio Brown, but I think that price would be too high than just Josh Rosen and a third. And I wouldn't want to trade Josh Rosen because I don't want to even draft Kyler Murray, because if I'm hearing if I'm hearing an executive say this, like, that's not the only quote. The last one was from a different exec where he was like, I saw the interviews during his Super Bowl and they were awful. And to be a legit quarterback, you've got to have leadership qualities like Baker. And I know we drafted him in Cleveland, so I'm probably a little biased, but he controls the room. He walks in and it's like, whoa. Watching Kyler do an interview, it's like, come on, guy, what do you got? Give me something. I'm sure they're trying to train him, but the thing is, that is his personality. And that's the thing. Is that just his personality to where he's not going to be that leader in the locker room?
Exactly, and you need that. And people have criticized quarterbacks for not being leaders in the locker room in the past. They'll continue to do so.
And how often has it panned out?
Yeah. It's an interesting situation here for the Cardinals because they've made it kind of more difficult on themselves than it needs to be. Really, if anything, they should be telling people, do you guys want a chance to get a Bosa? Because I can show you a good Bosa in the NFL right now.
Yeah, look at the
You
Chargers.
can have one right here.
Yeah.
Trade for the number 1 pick for that. Kyler Murray, I think they're barking up the wrong tree to try and get someone to trade up for Kyler Murray. I think there's enough people who are not interested.
Yeah, it's interesting to where I would feel like, in the last thing I would say, and before I ask you the answer, which I know your answer already, but just to give us solidified.
Yeah.
My final answer would be no, don't draft Kyler Murray number 1. I would even say no, don't trade the pick unless you're getting like a king's ransom for that pick. I would take Nick Bosa, Nick Bosa at number 1.
Yeah, Joey's in San Diego.
I've said the wrong Bosa name so many times
LA.
that now I say the right one and I still second guess myself. But I would take Nick Bosa at number 1 and just be happy with that pick. What would be your final answer with the question of should the Cardinals take Kyler Murray at number 1?
Nope.
Just plain and simple, just don't take.
Don't do it.
Same thing, taking Nick Bosa.
That's your best thing to do is just take him. I mean, if you like you said, if you can get the King's ransom, and you might because he's a very talented player, and his brother's very talented too. Sure, you could trade it then, but just you need to hit on a really high pick. You don't want to take risks. Just go draft the guy who is going to be a sure thing.
Yeah, and the interesting thing to me is the Cardinals, I think no one's going to trade up to number 1 for. The 49ers, no one's going to trade there. The big one to me, and whether we do this next week as a segment or we hold it off until the mock draft, it's really the Jets. They're the one where it's like, if Kyler Murray's available, that's the pick that I'm trading up to. I'm not trading up to 1, not trading up to 2. I'll trade up to 3, 4. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section. If you're the Cardinals GM, if you're in that front office, are you taking Kyler Murray number 1? If you're a Cardinals fan, do you even want the Cardinals to take Kyler Murray? I almost said Josh Rosen. Kyler Murray number 1 overall, or would you stick with Nick Bosa or even a Quinnen Williams, somebody that we did not mention? Let us know what you guys are thinking down below in the comment section.